Hey everyone, Clio here and welcome to another reading vlog. So starting this one a little bit late, I'm starting this one on Sunday basically, though one of the clips from earlier was from yesterday, from Saturday, when I intended to get a lot of reading done, but in the end I did a lot of gaming. I took a little bit of a break in the first week of January. I say that, but that's not really true because, you know, if you've been following my channel, you know that from the 1st of December until the 7th of January, I've been uploading daily. And while at first I had quite a lot of pre-films, when I went through the month, some of that pre-filming I had to redo because I wasn't happy with the focus on the shots, and a lot of the editing had to happen last minute. And the further we got along into that process, the more I had to do last minute, so that final week, the videos in that final week I had to film in the weekend of the 1st and the 2nd of January, then I had to edit them throughout the week. My motivation for doing that just got slimmer and slimmer and lower as the week progressed. So I was so happy when I was finally done with it, and you know, in principle I was going to start vlogging the day of the 7th because, you know, that was a day in which I no longer had anything to do, but I did have to edit the video that went up the 7th on the 7th still. I was just worn out from the entire experience. But so all in all, I'm happy I did it. I am very proud of myself for having stuck through with it. I am a procrastinator, so I knew that there was a big chance of this ending up like that, but I'm still happy I stuck with it. But afterwards I just needed a break. You know, at this point in time, I'm just that unhappy person who has seen so many posts of people being like, yeah, these are the first 5 books that I've read this year. And I'm like, what? It is the 10th of January. I have finished 0 books at this point in time. I don't think that that's going to change today neither, because I am currently reading the 2 biggest books on my shelf, on my TBR. I'm reading Don Quijote de la Mancha by Miguel de Cervantes, part 1, and I am about 250 pages into that one, which is a 660 page book. And then I am about 130 or so pages into Elantris, which is also a 700 plus book, so I am far away from finishing any of these. I had a very productive day yesterday in the morning. The clip that you saw earlier was me dropping off the books that I had previously unhauled at the secondhand bookshop, and then I used that opportunity of me having my trolley with me to immediately go to the grocery store and do groceries as well, which is something that I always procrastinate on. So I was happy that I got those 2 things done before lunchtime. It even organized part of my pantry, which it's a project that I should have done already like 3 years. It's a project 3 years in the making basically. It's like my junk room. It's a place where stuff accumulates. There's no organization to it whatsoever, and so I kind of got annoyed with some things in it, and so I reorganized a lot of things yesterday morning as well. So I was feeling super productive yesterday morning, and then I said, hey, you know what, I'll allow myself to do a little bit of gaming now before I dive into reading. Well, a little bit of gaming turned into like 5 hours of gaming, I think. But the good thing is that it's the first time that I managed to win a Civilization 6 game. In all fairness, I've also only allowed it to fully run for like 2 times before. All other times I've been unhappy with the way in which the game was evolving, and I've just like restarted. But so this was the first time that I finally won a game of Civilization 6, so it's productive in a different sense of the words. And then afterwards I found out that gymnastics seasons has started in the US. So yeah, then I watched 2 competitions of gymnastics, which in total is about 3 hours of watching gymnastics. So that's where my time went yesterday. But today I am hoping to get a lot more reading done. I will say that there's also another gymnastics match that I still want to see that is now available, that wasn't available yet yesterday.
So I actually caught up to Don Quixote during the weekend, meaning that today I should be reading 2 chapters of Don Quixote if I want to stay caught up to the story, which I guess is what I'm going to be doing now. So I don't think I updated you guys yesterday any further about my reading, but so I got quite some reading done. So I read like 4 chapters of Don Quixote, which was about like 70 pages of Don Quixote, and then I read about 80 pages or so of Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. So I've been happy with my updates. I mean, I've been happy with my reading yesterday, though it didn't really fully compensate for the fact that I hadn't read anything on Saturday. But then on Sunday evening I also watched gymnastics with a friend of mine. You know, like we watched YouTube together using like YouTube with friends so that we could chat together and watch at the exact same time. So it was fun to like kind of pretend like we were there together. So we'll probably do that like every Sunday evening from now on, just watch the gymnastics meets together. So yeah, very much looking forward to that new little tradition that we're building there. But so for the rest, I really didn't do all that much. For Elantris, I'm updating you guys in a different vlog, in next week's vlog. But so for Don Quixote, I'm starting to get really kind of a rut with this story. So Don Quixote de la Mancha follows the story of a man who has read too many chivalry novels, and so he's unable to see the distinction between fiction and reality from having read that type of media all that much. So he constantly imagines himself as being inside a chivalry novel, and so he believes himself to be a knight errant, I think is what the English translation is. And so he wants to roam the countryside kind of looking for adventures and looking for problems to solve. However, a lot of things go wrong. And it's kind of supposed to be the origin of this sort of like episodic story, which I don't necessarily like episodic storytelling all that much. You know, I think that is part of what I don't like about detectives or, you know, police shows or something like that. In part, I don't like them because I don't really care about figuring out who kills a person or whatever. But part of it is also just that I don't necessarily like the lack of an overarching plot. I can deal with episodic if it also has some sort of an overarching plot to it. This is not a sort of like... It's not a sort of like absolute rule. There definitely are episodic shows that I've watched. You know, I grew up on Friends, for example, which is also very episodic in nature. But in general, I'm more in favor of an overarching plot than I am in favor of an episodic nature. And so I very much loved Don Quixote at the beginning, very much enjoyed the sort of like humor that is in there, the mockery that is in there, the like depth that is in there at times, and you know, the whole setup for it, the narrative voice. It's very much a sort of like ironic narrative voice, and there's a lot of meta levels to it as well. So I've been very much enjoying a lot more than I expected going into it. But we're kind of hitting that rut now where I find it to be too much of the same. It's always just like an adventure and a new adventure, and these adventures follow a certain formula. So I'm gonna need for this story to kind of jump out of that formula, to subvert that formula in some way or another soon, or otherwise I'm going to be losing interest with this one. So hopeful that if I get a little bit further into this one it gets better. I am reading this as part of the Big Book Club by Tanya. I will link the channel down below. I don't really remember the name now of the channel, but so she has organized a sort of big book club, and this is the first sort of big book that we're tackling. And she has given an update that she thinks that that in her opinion the story picks up again after chapter 22. So that means I just need to read 2 more chapters. So after my reading for today, I should hopefully feel it picking up again in my reading for tomorrow. So yeah, hopefully that will be the case.
Hey, so it is actually Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening. Normally I round up my vlogs on Wednesday, and I'm just gonna talk about my reading up until that point because I haven't read anything else at this point, but I am including some clips of some like supplies that I've got because, as you saw from some earlier clips, I am trying to use my reading journal a little bit more, so it is part of my reading goals for 2021 to keep up with the reading journal a little bit. It also has to do with me wanting to slow down my reading a little bit more, to really process what I'm reading a little bit more thoroughly, because I do like to reflect on what I've read, and I also just want to be able to make my wrap-ups a little bit more interesting, a little bit more well-grounded. So that is part of the reason why I'm doing all of that. But so for that I also wanted some supplies in order to be able to put some stickers in there from time to time when I feel like doing so. So I've made some orders, and so I have linked normally all the shops down below, but as well I put it on the screen normally while the image was there. But so if you're interested in their art supplies, then definitely go and check out their web pages. And then I also got a new book that I'm not going to go into too much now. So I got The Death of Francis Bacon by Max Porter. This book does not fall into my credit system for books for 2021. So in 2021 I can only buy books if I have accumulated enough credit by reading books. However, this one I pre-ordered before I created that system, so this one gets a pass. This is one of the 3 books that get a pass. It's also extremely short. I have no problems getting around to this one pretty quickly normally. I'm hoping to even still fit it in January. We'll have to see, because my January TBR is looking like it's gonna be a little bit of a struggle. But so I have actually finally read and finished my first book of the month. It's not what I expected it to be, because it's basically a book that is kind of my on the side book. It's actually a book that I was basically only going to listen to when I was like cycling to physical therapy, for example. And so I didn't really expect it to be the first book that I finished, because I was only going to listen to it every Monday. However, I also went to my parents' place yesterday, and today I went to the office, so that meant that I had 2 extra commutes in which I also listened to it, and it's not a long one, so it was immediately finished. But so the first official finished read for 2021 is All Systems Red by Martha Wells, which I've given you 0 updates on, but it is also a short novella, so there's not really that much that I could have updated you guys on. But so this is a sci-fi novella in which we are following Murderbot. And so Murderbot is a robot who has kind of hacked into his own like control system, and so he's now in complete control of his own actions. He still gets the commands that he should be executing, but he can still decide for himself whether he wants to or not. So what does he do with this newfound freedom? Basically he's kind of laying low, pretending to still be a like nice complying robot, but he spends a lot of his downtime watching like reality TV or like shitty reality TV shows. And there's not much that I can go into as it is a short novella, but I definitely love the fact that he does that, and he's called Murderbot, but then he's like spending all of his time just watching these sort of reality TVs. And I also just love the type of character that he is, but I very much love this type of all-powerful character, this sort of character who can do everything they set their mind to, who can just, you know, who are natural talents is almost everything that they try out, you know. They've never done sword fighting, but they try it out and they're immediately amazing at it, or something like that. So Murderbot is this type of character that can do anything it sets its mind to, but he's also extremely socially awkward, and I just love that combination. I feel like that is the type of hero that you get a lot of in like Cal Cade's novels. Cal Cade's fantasy novels have that type of protagonist, and I absolutely loved this version of it as well. So Murderbot, the robot that could kill you if he wanted to, but is also extremely shy and gets very awkward if he has to make eye contact with humans. So really enjoyed this one. It's a 4-star read for me because I felt like, you know, it is a short novella, so we couldn't dive into the world or the characters as much as I might have wanted to, but it is also the first novella in a series. I think the 6th book in the series is coming out this year, so hopefully as I continue on with the series that it will only get better. And apart from that, the ending was kind of anticlimactic, had a little bit of Deus Ex Machina to it, which I don't necessarily like to see. However, still hopeful for the future of this series. And so that only leaves me with an update on Don Quixote. So yesterday I kind of gave in because I haven't really been, like, my last update for Don Quixote was Monday, I think, or Sunday evening, when I had caught up to where I needed to be. But then on Monday evening I tried to read my 2 chapters, but I kept falling asleep during the first one of those. On Tuesday I tried to listen to the audiobook. I decided, like, you know what, let's just for one day give up on this reading it in Spanish and just catch up by listening to the English audiobook. But even then I was constantly falling asleep. I was so tired those days. So yesterday I ended up catching up again, but I listened to the English audiobook. So there are a couple of chapters in here that I didn't end up reading in the original Spanish, but I am back up to date, and so from this week onwards I will once again be trying them out in Spanish first and then listening to the English audiobook to catch up. And I will say that the story has also become a little bit more interesting again, because I think in my last update I was saying how it was getting kind of dated. It was getting so it was so formulaic and it was always the same, and so it felt a little bit like we were stuck in a rut with this story. And I'm not necessarily going to say that there's been a huge upset of the storyline or something like that, but we have had a sort of like storyline move over multiple chapters, and we are kind of setting up for maybe a new part to this story. Interestingly enough, Don Quixote at this point in the book where I am now is pretending to be mad. He's acting as if he were mad, while he is in actuality at least considered to be mad himself, or portrayed as being mad by the author. So there's some nice meta level going on in there, but we're also seeing Sancho Panza, who has returned to Don Quixote's hometown. So now we will once again see the sort of incorporation with his hometown setting and the characters that we met at that point in the story, trying to get Don Quixote to return home so they can help him. So interested how that will develop further on. Still anxious about how, because at this point in time I still have about 1,100 pages or something of the total story to go, so still interested to see how we can keep this story interesting for so long. But I am still enjoying myself, and I am enjoying myself a lot more again at this point of the story than I was when I was in that little bit of a rut over there a couple of chapters ago. But so yeah, that is going to be it for my update for this week. I think it was kind of bare bones. It was really kind of a getting back into reading, getting back into vlogging sort of week. So I'm hoping for a little bit better content to this reading vlog next week. But so yeah, hope you guys still enjoyed it, and see you guys for a future video.